Yeah! Get up!
What is up, everybody? I'm here to talk to you today about movie moments, motorcycle movie moments specifically. And recently I put out a video, and less recently there were a couple of other videos on movie motorcycles. But today what I wanted to talk about was motorcycles that were used in movies that did not use practical effects, that used either the green screen or maybe completely used CGI to produce the action sequences that you watch in the movie. Now, if you lived through the 80s, if you have good memories or maybe not so good memories of the 80s and 80s movies, you'll remember a movie called Tron. And I might be off on this. Tron might have came out in the late 70s. But you'll remember that they used CGI, very primitive CGI, to create those light cycles in that movie. Now, flash forward a couple decades, and you'll get the movie Tron Legacy. And this movie produced one of the coolest special effects motorcycles I've ever seen. I've also seen people try to reproduce the motorcycles that they used, those light cycles that they used in the movie, that are functional, rideable motorcycles. But in the movie, that's all CGI. But it is it's spectacular. I love watching them go from no motorcycle, and then they leap up in the air, and boom, they produce those motorcycles that they can ride around on and have those events, those, I wouldn't even call them races because they're just trying to knock each other off. It's been so long since I've seen that movie, but I know that it is like a contest. And either way, I don't care what it was, those things are friggin' awesome. So that is my favorite special effects motorcycle from movies. So if you go back to around the time that Tron came out, there was another movie, and this is stretching it a little bit because I don't know if you would call this a motorcycle per se, but it was ridden like a motorcycle. Is that fair to say? That it's you can consider it a motorcycle if you're straddling the machine and it has handlebars. We're gonna say yes, because what I'm gonna talk about right now are the speeder bikes from The Return of the Jedi, episode 6. Yes, episode 6 of the Star Wars saga. Now, at the time, CGI was still very, very primitive, right? All of the Star Wars series are very revolutionary as far as special effects went, but when you watch those movies, they have used CGI to clean it up. They've used CGI to add to the scenes, but the original scenes I remember as a kid were just so thrilling. Riding through the forest of Endor, which is cool because I live nearby the Redwoods where they filmed that, and you can actually go and check that out. But in the movie, it's Endor, and them zooming through there, and the way that they use the camera rigs to produce those images was just thrilling. I remember it being thrilling as a kid and watching it later, and still being impressed by the way that they did that camera work and added the actors on the speeder bikes in to those images. It was just phenomenal, and it'll always be something special to me in my mind as primitive as the special effects were back then. Right along those same lines, and we're going to stay in the Star Wars universe. Also, questionable whether or not you can call this an actual motorcycle, but in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, don't click off the video. I'm not going to talk about the pod racers. Everyone's favorite part about that movie. Now, what I'm going to talk about is something that only shows up very briefly in the movie, and I'll flash it up on the screen here, obviously, like I have been doing the rest of the movies. But the motorcycle that Darth Maul rides around the desert, that thing is badass. I mean, Darth Maul himself, he could be walking around that desert, or like Forrest running around that desert. That guy is he's the epitome of the dark and the for lack of a better word, badassery from the prequel trilogy. And it's too bad that he only was around for one movie. It really is too bad, because He was the best thing about that movie. I don't care what anyone says. I love Qui-Gon, but Darth Maul, oh my gosh. So for him to have his own ride to get around the desert, that thing was just awesome. For as brief as it was that he rode around on it, still, nothing beats that thing as far as solo riding and things that you only see for like probably less than 30 seconds in the entire movie. And when you break that down to the time that takes out of the entire Star Wars saga, it's like nothing. But still, someone took the time to design that, and they did it well. I remember that thing very well. Okay, moving out of the Star Wars realm and staying with the CGI produced is, and I don't know why I'm saving this one for last. Maybe I'll cut it back to the beginning. But one of the things that stuck out to me as far as motorcycles go, and this was in Star Trek, and I mentioned that Star Trek, the motorcycle that was a functional, actual motorcycle from the Chris Pine, Zachary Quino, the original, not the original Star Trek, but the new Star Trek, was the bike that the cop is trying to pull over the young James Kirk when he's driving around, and I believe that's an old Corvette, but I can't be certain because it's been a while since I've watched that movie. But the cop is flying around in this on this motorcycle, and it's freaking cool. Not to mention, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a droid or if that's supposed to be a human, but that whole, again, it's one of those things that doesn't take very much time to make an impression on you. But for me, a guy who loves motorcycles, I'm like, dude, I wish I would be alive in like 50 years so I could ride one of those flying motorcycles. I'd have to go to a galaxy far, far away to get Darth Maul's, but seeing that it's Earth in Star Trek, yeah, somebody needs to build a time machine, so not only can I go back in time to ride some of those classic motorcycles, but I can go forward and see if they've got something like they did in Star Trek. Alright guys, those are the CGI motorcycles that for me in modern memory have stood out. If you can think of other CGI produced motorcycles that have made an impression on you, or you just think, man, he forgot that one, mention it in the comments below and let me know what you think of the ones that I mentioned. Alright guys, that's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up down there, which is the like button. And if you're so inclined, hit the subscribe button, which will pop up right over here. I'll also throw up some links right over here in this direction so you can go straight to one of my other videos. Guys, if you're out there riding, be safe. And if you're not riding, get riding. This is that one guy, and I am out.